Stein from the Human-Centered AI Lab at the University of Oxford. The paper I'll be discussing today, You Are You and the App, There's Nobody Else, Building Worker-Designed Data Institutions Within Platform Hegemony, resulted from a collaboration with many of my colleagues in the Ethical Web and Data Architectures project at the Oxford Martin School. In the Ethical Web and Data Architectures project, we are striving to reform the concentration of power on the World Wide Web by developing and deploying new forms of technical and legal infrastructure. One place on the web that a wealth of research has already identified as a site of immense power imbalance is platform work. The implementation of platform, also called gig work apps, such as Uber, Deliveroo, and DoorDash, results in enormous information asymmetries between workers and platforms. All the while, algorithmic management techniques generate maximum value and minimize operating costs for the companies behind the apps. Using sophisticated big data analytics systems, companies behind platform work apps can take advantage of the patterns, trends, knowledge, and optimization opportunities they find in data generated by millions of workers. On the other hand, workers are at best able to access their own data and on the basis only of privacy. The harms of this asymmetry are clear. Workers are subject to poor working conditions, safety concerns, and unexplained dismissals. Worst of all, workers' pay and autonomy is squeezed by opaque pricing and work assignment systems, as they are treated more a part of the system than as the system's stakeholders. With scant access to data, workers are left little recourse to advocate for better conditions or to contest automated management. Following a long tradition of using participatory design to advocate for workers, HCI research has centered the voices of these workers to put forward new designs for better, more just sets of features through which platform work apps might be able to prioritize these workers' welfare and needs. Such research has also outlined the difficulty of using participatory design and distributed big data, algorithmic, and AI systems. Despite the promise of worker-centered designs and brand new methodologies for participatory AI, it is unlikely that platforms will ever implement the features proposed. This is in part because platforms are also feeling a squeeze of their own. Many of their parent companies have yet to achieve sustainable profitability and face increasing competition, threats of regulation, and diminishing access to cheap capital, which has fueled their growth. Indeed, platforms are often incentivized to do exactly the opposite, avoiding giving out collective data of any kind, and when they do give out data to data subjects, they only do so in a form that cannot be easily aggregated. They also add features which atomize workers, gamifying work and treating them as a single homogenized group, rather than recognizing workers' diverse needs and diverse definitions of personal autonomy. Heeding the call of HCI scholars like Gbia and Nardi, or Wolf, Assad, and Dombrowski, we take a different approach to the existing HCI research on platform work. We think about counteracting the harms of algorithmic management systems not only on the level of user-app interaction, but from the level of social, political, and economic systems. Using Laclau and Mouffe's theory of agonistic pluralism, we assert that exploitative systems cannot be resolved through redesigning their apps alone, but are social problems which require institutions capable of intervening in the power structures of political economy. In practice, this means that rather than asking how we might augment, supplement, or redesign the features of existing platform systems, we asked what might be necessary to support worker-led resistance against information asymmetries via new sustainable worker-supported institutions. As a starting point, we presented workers with a database schema used by Uber to organize driver data sourced from a GDPR data subject access request. This provided a scaffold for workers to construct alternative data architectures and institutions through a series of participatory design exercises. In these exercises, We put workers in the role of data stewards, of worker-run data collectives, and ask them to help design not only the technical, but also the social institutions required to gain agency through data aggregation. After completing data stewardship tasks, such as combining data types, constructing schemas, and configuring access controls, we asked workers for ideas of how to contend with the constraints of computational expertise and financial resources, and to identify key stakeholders and how those stakeholders' roles might contribute to resolving these constraints. Our participants were largely able to navigate key trade-offs and create mitigation strategies for conflicts typical of data stewardship. Further, our findings included a broad variety of socio-technical institution designs that workers proposed in order to support the use of collective data. We found that empowering data subjects, particularly in the case of platform workers, is not so simple as identifying harms, mapping requirements, and generating new features, but also necessitates the creation of social institutions which can help accommodate a diversity of stakeholder perspectives. For future research, this means that developing infrastructures beyond the platform will be key, and doing so with flexibility, reuse of data, and participatory governance structures will be of the first priority. There are already great examples of these sorts of infrastructures emerging, whether backed by unstructured data in examples like pushshift.io, who provide shared data research data access, or in more highly structured examples, like in Wikipedia's use of linked data and talk pages to negotiate difficult understanding. We believe adapting and emulating these structures to ensure data subjects benefit from the knowledge they generate should be a major focus for HCI's future. And finally, just to wrap up, I'll finish with an enormous thank you to the participants, both in the US and in the UK, for all their insight and openness, to Workers Info Exchange, without whom accessing rich data subject access request data would not have been possible. And of course, to researchers, both who collaborated with us on the project and gave advice and input for this project. And finally, thank you so much for your time and interest in our paper.